Yo, what is going on, everybody? Gabriel Santos here. And in today's video, we're going to talk about the shame and pain masked underneath your marijuana dependency or addiction. Okay, so I want to preface this video by saying, this video is meant for people who want to change their marijuana habits, right? But more than that, they want to change their lives. And this video is ideally meant for people who are so deep in the shame and guilt of being addicted that they can't even take new actions, right? Like you're so stuck, so lost, and you don't know what to do, right? And so one context about this video, one underlying principle about this video is that the emotions of shame and guilt, when someone is in shame and guilt, there's almost no ability to take new actions. It's such a low vibration, if you will. It's such a low state of energy and emotion that it's just a dark, sad, stuck place to be. Okay, and so the cycle that we're going to talk about in the shame, guilt, and pain cycle when it comes to weed is this right here. You've either used marijuana in such a way that you've ignored your life, right? And even with that, the real theme here is that you've been ignoring the problem areas in your life, right? Because, for example, when I was deep in addiction and dependency in college, I wasn't focusing on school. I wasn't focusing on my health. I had a lot of low self-esteem. And instead of addressing those things, I would run to marijuana. And what happened was I started to blame marijuana for why my life wasn't going well. When in reality, instead of doing something about my life, I was choosing to go to marijuana. And it becomes a cycle where the stress of our lives, whether it's the pressure from a deadline or the stress of paying bills, or even the psychological stress of knowing that there are things you need to change in your life, but you're just not addressing them, that stress becomes something that we don't want to deal with because we're used to running away and escaping through pot. Because pot is a great way to relieve that stress and that pain effectively, right? Oh my God, I have bills. Oh my God, I'm overweight. And it gets to a point where we don't even want to take a look and acknowledge the problem areas in our lives. And because of that, we don't even realize that this shame and guilt we're feeling is from the fact that, oh, I'm ignoring my life. Like all I know is that I feel this certain way and I feel this stress, and the way that I deal with that stress is I go to weed, right? And then you're high for a little bit, you're away from the shame and pain, but then it comes back when you're not high anymore. And imagine repeating this cycle for years, and it gets to a point where you're so deep and removed from taking action and changing your life and your personal power, and you're so deeply entrenched in running away, avoiding. And not only that, your solution for stress is to run to the pot to avoid more. And by avoiding more, your life continues to go downward. And so it's this fucked up cycle of, oh my God, my life is down. I should probably do something about it, but I'm too stressed. It's too much. I don't even want to acknowledge how shitty I feel about myself because I let my life get to this point that I'm just going to go smoke pot because at least I get immediate relief. Okay, so what do you do about this? Okay, the first, I would say the toughest part in the beginning is the courage to actually take a look. The courage to actually take a look and be like, and acknowledge like, fuck, I've let my life get to this point. Fuck. And that hurts. Like even just the courage to acknowledge like, fuck, like, and what this looks like for a lot of people is a sense of anger, like, oh my, I'm so pissed at myself for having done this, that I'm done with weed, right? Because we think weed is the ultimate issue. We make weed the adversary, right? And in a way that's kind of true, but who you're really mad at is yourself. And what you're really battling is the part of you that quote unquote messed your life up. The lazy part of you, the avoidant part of you, the irresponsible part of you, the part of you that just wants to that doesn't want to face challenge, doesn't want to face adversity, doesn't want to face stress, doesn't want to take accountability. And so so what you do there is acknowledge really that I have been letting myself slip by and using marijuana to cope. And then the second part, which is just as hard but just as important, is doing the work, right? And so for a lot of people, what that looks like in this area is, instead of smoking pot, go and do something about your health. Instead of smoking pot, take a look at what areas in your life need fixing and then actually go and fix them. Right? And so it's a rebuilding process, and it sucks because, quote unquote, it sucks because now you can't just run to your old pacifiers. You can't just indulge anymore, right? In order to be healthy, you can't just indulge on chips anymore. You actually have to say no. And so what does that mean in terms of your pot use? Okay, and I think this is where, I think many of us, we want to keep pot as something we can do, but we obviously we want our lives to be better, and we never want to slip back into a place where we're running to pot constantly and we're not focusing on our lives, right? And so the reality is that, at least in my experience, you can no longer use pot as a main form of coping. There's a time and place for it, but it takes a little bit of time to know what that is. And I would probably advise people that if they've developed a serious dependency or addiction to marijuana, that it's in your best interest to take a decent amount of time away from it, mainly for the purpose of developing other more sustainable coping skills, and to detach yourself from needing it at all. Where you can comfortably go as long as you need to not use it. And the reason why I say that is because, that's what independence is. Emotional independence is, especially from marijuana. Emotional independence from marijuana is not needing it to solve your emotional issues, not needing it to bring you happiness. And I would say it's important to get to that point. That way, when if ever you reintroduce it to your life, that you're not over depending on it, that you're not leaning on it to be something that you have to have in order for your life to go well. And that can be a tough task. That could be a tall order right there. But, hopefully this video is making sense to you. It's really about the courage to face the fact that your life isn't going how you want to go, and then actually putting in the effort to change that. But first and foremost, I would say it's just really taking the time to be like, fuck, like my life has not been going how it's going. And instead of coming from a place of like, oh my God, my life, wow, It's to come from more of a place of ownership, like, oh, I have been the one that's been dropping the ball. And just really owning that part of it. Like, oh, I've been the one. I've been the one. And finally getting real firm about that, like, oh, I've been the one not doing what I need to do. And I've been the one running away. And I've been the one not giving a fuck. And I've been the one letting this happen. And just owning the fact that that's what you've been doing. And no need to pity party it overly much, right? Just be like, oh, that's what I've been doing. And just see if you can stand firm with that truth. And kind of hold that space right there of like, right? And that's a totally different world than, oh my God, I've been fucking up, blah, 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 blah. Like, just get real square with yourself about it. And from that place of owning it, of being square with yourself, get honest about what needs to happen moving forward. And that's where the real work comes. And if I could be practical, one practical piece of advice when it comes to you and marijuana and making this change is that you got to know when it's time to say no. And how do you know that? I mean, take a look at your life. Take a look at what matters to you. And from there, start to reverse engineer, like, when does pot really make sense? And when does it not make sense? Anyways, this video is running a little long, as they always do, but hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, anybody have any questions, comments, always leave them down below. And appreciate you all. Thank you for watching the videos. Hopefully these make a difference for you. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.